Wow. Wow. Hello YouTube, Mr. Tomo2304 here with the review for Bleach 500. Yes, it's the big 500, and it's certainly a good enough chapter, I think. Some people might find it a little underwhelming, but I certainly think there's a lot here, and there's definitely potential for the next few chapters that it's certainly built up on. So, the last chapter ended with Kirge trapping Ichigo in the cage inside the Garganta, and this one starts with the messages of the Soul Society going to transmit messages from the 12th Division, Rin specifically. And since they've decided that it's going to take too long to just transmit one entire message to the captains, they've thrown down these swords next to all the fighters, and the swords themselves then transmit the message from the 12th Division to the fighters. So we see the messengers going about trying to get the swords down. One messenger gets shot straight through the heart by the Colonel Sanders Quincy, who's battling Shinsui. He's pretty badass about it as well. He doesn't even look at the guy. He just sort of like, bang, you're dead. There's a bit of a Hawkeye, if any of you have seen the Avengers, a little bit of a reference there. He just shoots him, doesn't even look at him. He takes him out straight away. So that means that whatever happens, Shinsui doesn't know what's going on. He hasn't got one of those swords to tell him what's happening. So Rin addresses all the Shinigami in the Seirete. He tells them that Ichigo is heading towards them as they speak. We see Renji and Rukia hear this. His Bankai cannot be stolen by the Quincy, and that's been confirmed. We get reaction shots from Komamura, Toshiro, Ikaku, Kenpachi, who actually has a line for once in a little while. He seems very ecstatic about the fact Ichigo's coming. Rangiku, Byakuya, Ukitake, Miuri, who is perhaps a little annoyed at the fact Akon is acting on his own. We might see some repercussions from that later. And then Yuki, who's all happy about Ichigo coming, but no one cares about him. However, Akon then realises that Ichigo is stuck inside the Garganta. Reiatsu has disappeared. So you get the big 500, and Ichigo's trying to smash his way out of the cage, obviously using his sword, trying to break out of it. He then gets a call through from Akon, asking him what's happened. However, Akon can't hear Ichigo. So that makes me think that Ichigo's Reiatsu is being sealed off inside this cage, which makes me think it's a very special variant of Quincy abilities. We'll get onto that later. So, yeah, Akon realises something's happened. But then, we get a rather unexpected cameo of someone long past. Jidanbo arrives in the 12th Division. Now, this is one of the things I really like about this arc already. Some people didn't like the Arrancar arc because it seemed to have a lot of loose ends. It seemed to let a lot of things disappear off the face of the manga, never to return again. For example, characters like Kukaku, Jidanbo, Ganju, eventually Grimjo. Some of the Vizars just disappeared, like Kensei and Mashiro still hasn't returned. But so yeah, but the good thing about the final arc is it allows Kubo to bring it all full circle. We're going to see some of these characters again, even if it is just short cameos. But for example, we've already got Jidanbo here, possibly foreshadowing an arrival by Kukaku and Ganju. I believe Kubo has already stated will be in it. But as for characters appearing long past, we'll get onto that later, as that's sort of what the main focus on the end of the chapter is. But Jidanbo smashes into the 12th Division. Hyosu wonders what the hell he's doing. Jidanbo starts killing people, and Hyosu says he'll seal the place off. Hyosu then tells Akon to get out, because if he dies, then there's no one to lead the Technology Division. Suddenly, Rin stabs Hyosu, and neither of them know what's going on. But it looks like they're being controlled, as we see the foot of a Sternritter outside, just sort of giggling away. At least it's presumed to be a Sternritter. I think it probably is. He has, like, Neutra-style curved boots with a sort of really sort of puffy trousers. It looks like you can't really see much of him. You only see his foot, to be honest. But then we get one of the really symbolic and really powerful parts of this chapter. Ichigo's stuck in the cage, and his phone is now transmitting the calls of every single one of those transmitter swords that were thrown down at the beginning of the chapter. So he hears Renji, he hears Rukia, he hears them talking about screams and explosions. Then he starts hearing every single one of these conversations. A bit like, if you've ever seen Bruce Almighty, when he starts getting all the prayers in his head, you can sort of imagine that's what it's like for Ichigo. Every single person in the Soul Society who's now in trouble is just talking, and he can hear every single one of them. So he can hear people saying, "Why are people dying? Help me! I'm going to kill you. It hurts. Let's run. Just get out." And then the last one he hears, the most powerful one, we don't know who says it, but regardless, is Ichigo's going to come and save us. So obviously he can hear that, and he knows he can't escape. and he knows that there are people waiting for him, so he tries to desperately smash out the cage. It's not working. So we return to Huecamundo, and Kirge is sort of looking on rather smugly, saying he's going wild in there. But he reveals that he's Sternritter J, Kirge OP the Jail, and he will never escape from that prison. Which is interesting, because does this mean that the Sternritter, their letters are based on their abilities, and it's not actually a ranking system at all? Because if Kirge is J, and we go by an alphabet ranking system, that makes him like the 10th strongest of all of them. And admittedly, he was an absolute tank, and he had some seriously powerful abilities. But I don't know, it looks more like it's actually based on their abilities, which is really interesting. What could As not F be? Bambietta Bastabine E and Nanananajiku U. What could he be? What could their abilities be? But regardless, we don't find out. Kirge says that before the power I absorb from that monster disappears, I'm going to finish off the rest of them. So evidently he does lose his the Allen parts that he stole via Sclavery, which explains why he no longer has his wings or his eyes or his tail or even the huge teeth. Urahara cries out, "Wait!" We know he's been shot in the back by an arrow, but just before Kirge can kill them, an enormous explosion hits him behind and he gets slashed right in half, literally cut in half. On the next page, it's rather gruesome. His ear is split off from his head. It was like a shaving of his face. It's pretty disgusting. But Urahara, it's a bit strange though that Urahara is sort of sitting there, and like on the manga stream one, the Shonen Jump, sort of, you know, what's it called? Where they put on the side. It says that Urahara is on the verge of death. I think that's a bit strange. But Urahara has been shot in the back. He still doesn't seem to be able to move. But he says, "Who was that? Who cut Kirge?" And then suddenly a sword appears right next to his face. Literally, the person who has it moves so fast, he just appears next to him. And then the last thing we get of the chapter is Urahara saying, "Oh no." So that's the chapter. I thought it was fantastic, really. I thought it was worthy of being the 500th chapter. Quite a lot happened. Well, at the same time, not much happened, but what is happening is very good, and that's what counts. We have one of the Sternritters is able to turn Shinigami against each other by the looks of things. And he's got Jidambo and Rin and just the 12th Division all fighting it out with each other. It seems that the Sternritter are maybe they know Ichigo's on his way and they're trying to stop the rest of the Shinigami from finding out. That's why they're, you know, cutting, or maybe they're just cutting the communications anyway. Very typical strategy. We also found out that Kirge OP his letter was J, therefore we think it's probably likely he was a Sternritter. Yeah, Ichigo can obviously hear everyone's queries. He knows the Shinigami know Ichigo's on his way, but they also know he's trapped at the same time. And obviously, the main thing of this chapter was who appeared at the end of the chapter. Whose sword is that shaving Urahara? The way Urahara spoke, it's like a former enemy. Immediately, you want to think Grimjo. That's who you want to think. Whether it is Grimjo, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't reckon Grimjo's strong enough to wreck Kirge like that with one slash. Admittedly, Kirge was on his last legs using Ranso Tengai. I don't know, it still doesn't strike me as Grimjo, unless he's had a massive power-up and been training for the last two years. Because he just appeared next to Urahara as well. It could be Grimjo. I've heard people saying it's Aizen. I don't think that's possible, because Aizen lost his sword during his battle with Ichigo. It was destroyed by the Hogyoku. Well, I don't think it's Aizen. People have said adult Nell. I don't think it's her. She doesn't strike me as, you know, aggressive enough to slash Kirge in half, even if he is a villain. And then why would she point her sword at Urahara? That wouldn't make any sense. I don't think it's Nell. That doesn't leave... To be honest, we're not left with many options. I've heard people say Ishin. I don't think so. Why? Urahara can see the person. He wouldn't say, "Oh no," if it was Ishin. It does sort of lead you to believe it's Grimjo. He's the only potential enemy who is likely to come back, likely to fight for them, as we know that he sort of owes Ichigo. As we saw with Orihime back in the Huecamundo arc, Grimjo has a sort of twisted sense of honour. If you owe someone, he owes them back. So it could be Grimjo. I don't know, what do you think? I thought it was a fantastic chapter. Leave your comments in the section below. Please subscribe. I thought it was a great chapter, and congratulations to Bleach on making 500, although it technically made 500 back in 488, but that doesn't really matter. Going on the titles, Bleach has made 500. It's a fantastic landmark that only the longest running shonen series have made. Who do you think it was at the end? Put it in the comments below, people. Early chapter means we've got to wait a little bit longer for the next one. But until then, see you later.